Jubilee. I think this is their first like video that I've reacted to that's like already very long. Trans versus conservative men. Is masculinity disappearing in America? Interesting. I'm gonna try and keep it short on my end. I try, no promises.
Middle ground is a social experiment.
Oh, there's a disclaimer? Okay, yeah, never mind. I'm getting talking for a while. If there's a disclaimer, I mean, okay, bro.
Brings humans with opposing beliefs together. These discussions may contain viewpoints that are the result of misinformation. Remember to seek out experts and to be critical of your own biases while forming an opinion. Please see the humanity in each participant, and as always, we encourage empathy.
Okay.
So when you say we're just redefining what being a man is, you have to understand you're redefining a fabric in society that has kept the human race and got it to where it is today.
But do you see the state of our world today? It's not perfect, and it's been led by men like throughout all of history, and look where it's gone.
Okay. This one's gonna be interesting, bro. Like ice on my mouth. This is gonna be very interesting.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. Masculinity is disappearing in America.
We're starting here. Okay.
I think that masculinity is disappearing. I think that it's a concerted effort to emasculate men. I think that some people feel threatened by masculinity. And,
let's go, Brandon. All right, I'm sorry. I had to. I saw the opportunity, so I took it. If you see this video, bro, don't worry about it.
Typical way that men carry themselves, leading families and different things like that. So I think that there's an effort to mitigate strong men in America.
There's a few different ways to think about masculinity, but just looking at kind of the definition of the term 50 years ago, you had people like John Wayne, you had Martin Luther King, you had Sean Connery. You think of like masculine features as in beards, hairy chest, big muscles, think stoic, being brave, being rugged, being a provider. Today you have people like Harry Styles and Timothy Chalamet. You have people that are completely contrary to what we were looking at back then, and those values of those masculine characteristics are completely devalued.
I do believe that masculinity is going downhill, especially if you look at
okay, look, man. Look, I'm trying to not be biased and to, hear everyone out, okay? We're only about to be 2 minutes in. But I wish someone named Gilbert would try and impress me about how manly I am. I wish you would, bro. I wish you would, bro. Look, man. Look, I'm gonna keep it respectful, bro. It's no disrespect, bro. Shout out to your mom and your dad, bro. They played you, but it looks like you turned out all right. But look, man. I wish
testosterone levels. Now the testosterone levels for guys is going down compared to generations before us. So yeah, I agree. Hi, I'm Gilbert. I'm 24 years old and I'm a conservative man. With my beliefs and having a trans man as my friend, we don't really talk about politics. Someone being trans doesn't make me like them any less of a person. As far as pronouns, when referring to my friend, I don't really use the pronouns that my friend would want. I just say my friend or I say their name, just because I feel like I'm giving into the narrative that men can be women and women can be men if I use the pronouns that they want.
This dude's interesting. This whole video.
I do see that masculinity is under attack completely, but my definition of masculinity, like you said, has a lot to do with the traits that are associated with it. As a gay man, I was
about to say, I know he gay. I know he gay. Hold up, because now, okay, this is deep. This is deeper than I thought before now, a little bit. Let me go back because I need to.
I do see that masculinity is under attack completely, but my definition of masculinity, like you said, has a lot to do with the traits that are associated with it. As a gay man, I mean, of all of us, I'm not the most masculine man, but I do think that the good aspects of masculinity are definitely under attack, but I don't think that it's disappearing. It's just
good aspects. Okay. Channeled. So little things like that. I would love for what's his name, bro? I'm not going back anymore. This is already too long. I would love for him to kind of just break down what those good aspects that he's talking about are. You know what I mean? Because like Max said, I remember his name. I know you know, back in the day, 50 years ago, which I don't know why we're looking at the past for inspiration or, you know, looking to how we should live, because they didn't do it right, obviously. But, you know, it was like bigger dudes, beards, hairy chests, you know, brolic, whatever, right? But at the same time, it's like, what are the good aspects? Because around that same time where that was like the manly man doing, you know, doing this thing, like, look at even just how black people in general were being treated around then. You know what I mean? Black men and women weren't even being viewed the same then. 50 years ago, like, come on, man. So at that point, it's like, why are we looking at those clowns to be the role models for how we should act now? I feel like that's kind of weird. But I would love to hear the good aspects. And like the disclaimer, there's a disclaimer, bro. There's a lot of misinformation that's been spread around. And so their views are very biased. I get it. But still, I would just love for a breakdown to come out on that, because I'm a little confused on it, bro.
In different ways.
It depends on how you look at it, because a lot of the traits can also be embodied in women and femininity. So when we look at masculinity, I think that we have to also look at what is the actual definition of femininity and masculinity, and if we're defining masculinity by being stoic or muscles or body parts, then is it really masculinity?
A lot of times when you guys spoke about masculinity, you associate it with men being manly, but I think more women are embracing their masculinity. Masculinity is still there. I mean, just other genders are using it. Being courageous, being powerful, more women are standing in their power, which is again associated with masculine, but it's not specific to just men. Women are no longer submissive, they're dominant. Women don't need men, and I think that most of America is realizing that anyone can be powerful on their own.
I believe that the masculine traits are inherently in men, and men have to take a position. You made a really good point by saying women are now becoming more masculine. They feel as if they don't need men, which I think is the problem here. I think that the way we've been designed by God, in my opinion, is that men are to lead.
Here we go. Okay. Look, man, I love God as much as the next guy, but to bring religion into this, I feel like it's kind of coming out of left field, bro. It kind of is. What does that have to do with anything right now? What, bro? What? Brandon, come on, man. I had high hopes for you, brother.
They feel as if they don't need men, which I think is the problem here. I think that the way we've been designed by God, in my opinion, is that men are to lead, men are to be strong, men are to be brave. Men have to take their rightful position. The way our country has been structured to this point have been because of strong men who have taken a stand, who have fought wars. Now I feel like it's getting so lopsided that our families are degrading. People don't know where they're at in this country.
Now in 2022, masculinity is being redefined. And I think what happens is people get upset when things start to change. No, I think that nobody ever wants to take that away from men. I think that what we want to do in the world now is start to understand what is masculinity. And it's always been really associated with this very machismo space. And now there's different kinds of men in the world. There's not just biological men. There's also—
and the thing is too, is like there always have been, but there's like, it wasn't as easy to be able to view from so many different perspectives as it is now in the age of the internet and social media and stuff. But like, it's always been like that. There's always been trans men. There's always been more feminine men. There's always been, you know what I mean? Like that's not a new concept. Stuff like this has been around since at the very least the 1300s. You know what I mean? At the very least, probably longer than that too. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like people are so wrapped up in tradition and, you know, what they know to be right because that's all they saw, that it's like once something a little different, you know, gets exposed to them, they just don't know how to deal with it. And so that's why, you know what I mean, we have people thinking that, you know, because it's not their way, it's wrong or whatever. You know, it's weird, but ain't none of this new,
so
bro.
Trans men are people who want to be masculine. So I think what's happening now is people are pushing against change because change is scary and people don't understand. Exactly. And so I think men, biologically—
people fear what they don't understand. That's something that I always knew about, but it never really made sense to me until I heard X say it, man. Long live X, bro. Like, that's something that is so true, and it kind of when you think about it, that's kind of the root of a lot of problems. Not every problem with humanity, but a lot of them. People fear what they don't understand. And the thing is, a lot of people don't try to understand. A lot of people just kind of, you know, shrug it off and are like, that's wrong, whatever. They don't get it. And they don't even try to understand or even try to, you know, reason. That's why I have a little bit of respect already for all these conservative men here, because they obviously want to try and understand. They want to hear different perspectives and stuff like that. So like, shout out to them for that. But overall, a lot of people just aren't even open to doing that, which is really weird to me, bro. It's really
men
weird.
Feel under attack when I think that's not what's happening here.
The point that you made is 100% correct. There are different phases and people are experiencing in different ways. The feminist movement is, I think they are attacking masculinity within men. I don't want a man to open the door for me. I don't need a man in my life. I can do all of these different things. What they're doing is attacking men, and that's what's causing the problem.
What part of the...
I feel like there's a difference between people, especially women, understand their own self-worth and then attacking men. Because there are definitely some people that claim the feminist movement that are just haters of men in general, which is very weird. And kind of, we talked about this in the feminist video. I'm not going to touch on it too much, but like, I can understand that. But I feel like overall, like, it's about time that, you know, women kind of do their own thing. You know what I mean? Because a lot of women have for hundreds and thousands of years. A lot of, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, you would see, and even the animals, you would see the male kind of going out, attacking other things, you know what I mean? Getting food, providing shelter, whatever, right? But it's like, I feel like a lot of people have certain views on masculinity because they only paid attention to that. If you really pay attention to what women do, like, you ain't really doing all that much, my guy. Like, you really not. Like, sure, you're doing a lot, but it's not like women aren't doing anything. You know what I mean? You just got to pay attention.
Feminist group feels like it's attacking, because I know that most feminism is like wanting equal pay or...
Well, you just said that women not needing men is somehow empowering. You know, having a man is somehow less empowering, or being an individual is somehow less empowering.
But that's how women feel. Right. Women actually are saying that because that's how they feel. It's
but that's not how every woman feels.
But no one's saying every woman. They're only women speak for...
Exactly, but if you're going to say that, that's not how every woman feels, and not every man wants to be, you know, the sole provider, the macho man. Like, you know, think about it, bro. Think about it, man. Literally think about it. I just used your own words against you, basically. Because think about it, bro.
For themselves.
Like, just think about it.
All of you are going to have different opinions as biological men.
Absolutely.
Women all have different opinions. Oh, you see a very specific group of women saying this.
I mean, you did just say that's how women feel. So are you speaking on behalf of all women?
No, I'm not. Let me take that back. The women who are saying that feel that way.
Why do you feel that women in general feel disempowered?
No, I don't think in general. No. That's a generalized statement. You can't say that. I said the women. No, I did not. I said the women who say that.
You associated somehow women are now embracing masculinity, which means that they are now more empowered because they don't need a man.
Right. Men feel empowered when women need them.
But I don't think that women's empowerment comes from having a man or not having a man. So why is it always associated that you know, a woman's now empowered because she doesn't need a man? A woman has always been empowered. Women have never been,
but they've never felt that.
That's not true.
I feel like that's kind of cap, bro. If you look through history, a lot of women have been put down by men and held back by men to where they couldn't even really feel empowered. Sure, they would, you know, have their moments, right? But overall, even in the way history is taught, bro, we don't learn too much about women in power, bro, because it's men in power that are holding that information back. So we don't even really know what's going on. So a lot of women don't really have too many role models to look up to in that power, at least, you know, way back. Now it's a little bit easier, but you know what I mean? So I feel like that's cap, bro. That's big cap right there. Oh, man.
I mean, if we go back to the 1920s, if you're going to do that, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about society right now.
Right now, you actually
right now, but you brought up that, well, not him specifically, but in general, all the other guys here brought up masculinity 30 years after that. If that's the case, if we're talking about right now, you shouldn't have even started there. That's where the conversation started. Back in the 50s, talking about how masculinity was and how men were back in the day, and they don't make them like they used to, basically. Like, come on, bro. Make it make sense, man.
Think women are empowered right now?
Absolutely, women are empowered.
Who's the vice president?
And how long did it take for her to become a vice president?
And how many people weren't voting for Biden because she wanted to be vice president?
Way to be a man.
A right way and a wrong way.
Take a second to think about it.
Yes. There's definitely a right and wrong way. But probably not in the way that they're about to say.
When I originally heard the question being asked, I didn't agree with it, but men are not abusive individuals. Right. Men are not to be cowards. Right. Men are to lead their families. And men who do not display that, I don't believe that they are men, in my opinion. And all of the qualities that I see in my father is what I believe a man should be.
All of those characteristics are what make a man. And when I see a man be a coward in the truth, in just speaking the truth, or sticking up for what's right, especially today in America with everything going on, I'm like, those are not men. My name is Clarkson, I'm 24 years old, and I'm a conservative man. My biggest question for the other side really is, are you happy? Anybody that wants to fundamentally change society and change gender roles, to me, that's not happiness. And if we want to fight for acceptance, we need to start with acceptance.
Okay, so I feel like now we got the question, and especially in Clarkson's case, I'm bringing this up. I am bringing this up. If that's the case, then, like, if in your opinion, change gender roles, if that's not happiness, why is it sadness then, I guess? Because if it's not happy, then what else can it be, right? I'm guessing, so, like, why is that your viewpoint on it, right? And another thing, too, is I want to bring this up because Clarkson, he even said he's a gay man, right? A gay conservative man. So a lot of people that are more conservative will probably even view him as not being a man because he's gay. So I would really love to know where this kind of perspective comes from, because it's like, yo, you kind of low key fighting for a team that don't even want you on a team, bro, to be honest. And that might be part of the reason why he's fighting for this team, why he's very conservative, because he wants to, you know, fit in more with, you know, more conservative men. I don't know. He's a 24-year-old man. It's not like he's in high school and, you know, he's trying to sit down at the lunch table with them. But at the same time, it could be a very similar situation. I don't know. I mean, he's just business, you know, business casual, kind of dressy a little bit. Could be corporate America thing, right? Trying to fit in his workplace. I don't know what it is, bro. I hope not. But either way, I would love to know, like, where this perspective is coming from. Because obviously, he's not the traditional conservative man at all. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm saying here. But it's just weird to me.
Which is accepting society for what it is.
It's a little weird to me.
At the end of the day, we're all men, and I don't believe there's any wrong way to be a man. We're just redefining what it means to be a man.
I feel like there is a wrong way. I feel like if you're, and it's not even just about being a man, it's about being a human in general. So, you know, I guess obviously being a man falls under that, but it's like, you're not a person of your word, bro. Like, if you say you're gonna do something, you don't do it, that's wrong, right? If you're deliberately hurting other people for your own amusement or because you can, or as if you're abusing your power, that's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, basic things like that, that's wrong. So, given the question, the way I'm taking it, there is a right and wrong way to be a man. Now, I'm not saying that there's a wrong way as in, like, not doing certain things or not being a certain way or right way. You have to be like this. You have to do this. You know what I mean? That's not how I'm saying. That's not how I'm seeing it at all. That's not how I process the question. So, yeah, I just had to.
But there are things that naturally come to men. So when you say we're just redefining what being a man is, you have to understand you're redefining a fabric in society that has kept the human race and got it to where it is today. So just like aimlessly throwing out, oh, well, we're just redefining what it is to be a man. That's not just like a light subject that we should be talking about.
But why do they have to stay the same? Why do we need to have the same thing for hundreds of years?
Do you not see the state
It's not the same thing. It's just keeping the same qualities.
But do you see the state of our world today? It's not perfect. And it's been led by men like throughout all of history, and look where it's gone.
So we're talking about redesigning what it means to be a man. So what do you want to bring to traditional men?
I think it's embracing that you can be vulnerable.
I feel like there's already a problem with that right there. There should be no tradition. I feel like tradition is a problem. That's a big problem right there. I feel like we need a lot of change and a lot of variety, bro. There's no need to be traditional. If you want to be, cool, but there shouldn't be like that shouldn't be the standard. Traditional shouldn't be the, you know what I mean? Boys wear blue, you know what I mean? You go to work, you fight for your country. Like that shouldn't be the thing. I feel like that's boring. It's not, the world isn't black and white, bro. It's not one or the other. That's just not how it works. In any aspect, but especially in humanity. That's just not how it works. So I feel like the fact that they're even trying to say that there should be a certain traditional thing is like wrong in itself. Cause like, bro, why should there be a tradition? Like, I don't know.
I think that a lot of men want to portray strength, but men are people, and I know that men have feelings.
Being a man and masculinity, those are two different things. And I believe that we can redefine whatever that means to anybody by including other types of men or other types of masculinity. I myself am a father, I have a child. Some people would disagree with me being a father because I am transgender. But that being said, I present to the world as male, my child sees me as a man.
There's proper ways to be vulnerable, right? You don't have to break down in front of your family and cry. It's okay to suffer in silence as well. Strong men.
I feel like that right there is the problem with, you know, that's a big problem with the mental health crisis in America, especially, is like too many people are suffering in silence. Why do you think the male suicide rate is so high? Like yearly, and it keeps getting higher, bro, because everyone spends their entire life suffering in silence. They don't process their feelings. They don't, you know, talk about their feelings. They don't go through any of that stuff. And then guess what? You turn 54, 55, you get fed up, bro. You get fed up. You don't know what to do with your life anymore. And guess what? Then all those feelings that you suppress your entire life come out, bro. And then you don't know what to do with your life. And then guess what? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's a problem right there. And like he said, like, maybe, you know, you don't have to break down in front of your family all the time, but it's like, yo, at least let someone know how you're feeling. Go to therapy, bro. More people need to try therapy. It doesn't work for everyone, that's for sure, but at least try it, bro. A lot of men, especially black men in America, don't even consider therapy. You know, it's a problem, and that's something that leads to a lot of other problems, you know what I mean? Whether it's gang violence, a lot of people are very sensitive because they channel their feelings into the wrong outlets. You know what I mean? Like a dude gets called something or looked at a certain way, they freak out. They don't know what to do with themselves because they never process their feelings. And guess what? Then they go kill someone. Bro, it's never that deep. But then you want to talk about being masculine, you know what I mean? Suffering in silence. What is that? What do you gain from that, though? In the end, what do you gain from that? And like I said, suppressed feelings and thoughts of suicide and all that is just one outcome, right? There's a lot of people that then take their feelings and channel that into something else, especially fathers. A lot of fathers take out that energy on their wives, on their kids, on their coworkers, on their friends, you know what I mean? On other people. Like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Suffering in silence you don't gain anything from that, bro. Like, at all.
I believe exude the qualities that you guys are referring to. I think the problem is overcorrection, right? Some people believe that men need to cry and lay on the ground and be feminine like women. My name is Brandon.
I feel like that's there's a terrible view on that. Like, that's not a feminine trait to have, bro. It's a human trait. All humans have the ability to cry. All humans have the ability to have feelings. I feel like men just kind of chose not to, and then it became a thing where it was viewed as feminine. You know what I mean? But men are just as emotional, if not more emotional than women, bro. I feel like in some cases more emotional, bro. Like, a dude will get cut off in traffic and start shooting at people because of how he feels. You hurt his feelings. Now he's mad. Like, a lot more men kind of channel their energy, their sadness into anger, and then it just leads to more problems. But guess what, bro? That's an emotion.
I'm 34 years old, and I'm a conservative man. I had a lot of curiosities about what it's like to be a person who believes that they're a trans man. You know, I feel like God has created all of us very uniquely, and although I have beliefs and I follow the Bible to the T, I still want to know from other people what their experiences are. Doesn't mean I have to agree, but I really want to know what other people are feeling from the person who's experiencing it real time.
I have male privilege.
That is very true.
Oh, sit over. I've lived both lives, and I can tell you firsthand that it does exist. I am taken much more seriously in my career since I've transitioned as a man. Prior to transitioning, I would work just as hard, if not harder, for the same position and not be considered. The minute that I transition, I am immediately taken more seriously. I can give you an example. Obviously with COVID, there's like the mask mandate, right? So I have to tell customers all the time, it needs to be above your nose, right? I do that all day. My manager who's above me, who is a woman, will have to go to them, tell them they give her a fight. But the minute I just look in their direction, it's up. It doesn't seem like a privilege, but it is, because now my manager has to work 3 times harder for something that's
I think it's a psychological privilege. That's the thing. A lot of people try to view it as like a physical thing or like a, you know, mental thing, but it's more psychological, which I just said, same thing. It's more psychological though. Like it's deeper than just being able to see it. You know what I mean? Like it's way deeper than that, but it does exist. I feel like if you don't understand that, then you haven't seen the other side of it. King of the Universe, thank you for the follow, bro. Yo, that reminds me of that Babytron track, bro. So hard. I was watching Kenny Beat stream the other day, and he played it. This man, Babytron, rapped on like every legendary rap beat of all time. Different flows. Killed it, bro. Killed it. I need to play that.
Simple.
I think the word privilege is the thing that turns a lot of people off with this conversation. But that being said, again, myself living my life as a female, pretty much half my life, and then now half my life as a man, there is no way I could not be honest about the fact that my life has changed drastically. Also being a white man.
I was about to say, same thing with white privilege, bro. A lot of people like to say that it doesn't exist. Guess what? Because you haven't seen the other side, bro. Like, you haven't experienced the other side, and so you can't really understand it. Whereas with most other people, whether it's female, whether it's people of color, you get to see the other side quite often, and you definitely do notice that it exists. But the other side, they're so used to it going their way, they don't realize that it always goes their way. You know what I mean? They don't understand it. They can't process it. That's how it is.
That's also a conversation a lot of people don't want to have. But I have privilege of being white and privilege also of being a man now. I can walk into any room and command that room in a heartbeat because people just do that with men. And I think the thing is that biological men are born into that space, so they'll never ever see it. Why do we now, as women who have become men, get to have this thing? It's 100% because we are men. We look like men. Nobody would ever know. No one would ever know that we used to be women. So it's actually a real lived experience.
That's a very valid take.
So I agree with a lot of what you all are saying as far as like transitioning. But as a black man, privilege looks way different for me, because if I'm walking down the street, then I'm seen as a threat by police, by women, by anybody else. Being seen as a man is where my privilege stops and where everything else begins. So I don't see it as privilege.
Okay, I got a lot to say about this topic here. First of all, I mean, we have to be transparent and honest with each other. You know, I think that not everybody on this side presents 100% like a man. Like if I saw you in the streets, I wouldn't think you were a man. You know, men have it really hard in this world, and they've always had it hard in this world. The wars have been fought by men. They've died in the hundreds of thousands. Men commit suicide more.
I was about to say, with the war thing, a lot of people like to bring up war. Why do these wars start? If it's such a big deal, and it's like, you know, like humans are dying for what, bro? Like, what's the real cause of this war? Men being in their feelings about something, bro. Like, we just watched the video on why Russia trying to invade Ukraine right now, bro. Because Putin in his feelings about if someone presses him. He knows he's not about it like that, to where if NATO presses him, he can handle it. In his feelings about it, bro. Come on, bro. Like, you know what I mean? But now he's bringing up some good points here.
Men work more the dangerous jobs. You know, if somebody broke in this place right now, who are they going to expect to defend everybody in here? It's going to be the men. If your family fails, they're not looking at your wife. They're not. They're looking at the man. You know, I just want people to understand.
Things like that, too, though, is he's giving good examples of why it's important to define masculinity. Because I feel like if more people redefine it, then things like that aren't just going to automatically fall. Like, bro, we could solve these problems very easily. Very easily. And the thing is, too, that I feel like a lot of people don't understand is like, redefining masculine. That doesn't mean you have to walk outside with a dress on tomorrow, bro. You don't have to. If that's not your thing, bro, don't do it. Like, don't do that. That's not my thing. I don't do that. But at the same time, like, you don't have to work in construction and, you know, do underwater welding and stuff to be a man. Like, yeah, it's more dangerous, but like, come on, bro. That's not what it's about, bro. And little things like that too, like, you know, if the family, like you said, if the family fails, they're gonna look on the man. If we redefine masculinity and let women feel more empowered, that might change. They might, I'm not saying that they need to be looking at the women, but at least question it. Like, well, what went wrong here? You know what I mean? Instead of just looking at the man with shame and being like, oh, you're a failure. You know what I mean? Redefine masculinity, give it some time, let it kick in, right? The new generations come in, adopt that. I mean, come on, bro. Everybody wins.
Understand it. There's
I don't know, man.
There's some advantages that men have, and then also men do struggle in custody and all kinds of different things.
100%. I 100% agree with you as a man now, right? But I think my perception of it is different than yours because you were born male, you were raised male, you have a whole other space in that, and I totally respect your opinion on that, and I believe that that is a true lived experience as a born man.
Yeah, and let me add with the black man because we have a total different reality in that. I don't, in no way, form, or fashion do I go into a room and I feel like I'm less than. I think I command presence when I go into a room because the way I'm dressed and I'm tall. I go in the streets. I've never had a person cross the street. I've never been attacked by a police officer. I was a police officer. You know, I've been pulled over probably
that's why you 12, bro. You 12, bro. They know that. You got, that's the thing, bro. And it's no disrespect at all, bro. You know what I mean? I respect you. I feel like you probably had, you know what I mean, your own struggles, whatever, like you said, but a lot of people can sense that energy, and that's why they never see you as a threat because they see you on their side. You know what I mean? That's what it is. It's like if something goes wrong with anyone else that may be of darker complexion or shorter or whatever, maybe not dressed as nice, guess what? They're going to look to you to deal with that problem for them. Right? Because you 12, bro. Like, come on.
Times in my entire life.
I mean, my biggest question with this and why I don't necessarily agree with it is because when it comes to privilege, there's not really a way to quantify it. It's very subjective. So like your version of male privilege and your version of male privilege are very different.
So it's hard to see the other side because you've never lived it.
Yeah.
The difference between you and us is we see it. Because we've lived it. You have not. So it's easy to speak and be like, well, it doesn't exist. Well, how would you know?
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I think everybody has certain privileges, but what I think the question here is what defines male privilege over women? Because women have privileges too. Right. So is there a graph that you guys are calculating to make men have more than women or what?
The privilege is not acknowledging what you have that comes so easy.
So do you think that your fear, because you live both sides, do you think your fear is something that you have in your mind, or you think it's a reality? Because no, let me say this: you never really changed as a person. You're the same person
that you
were. So you have the same physical capabilities that you did when you were a woman.
No.
You don't?
No, my strength is entirely different after
what percentage would you say?
More than 100%.
Okay.
I weighed like 100 pounds.
But
now I weigh like 133.
you're still not probably as strong as me.
But it's not about strength. It's that women are targeted. Men are not targeted. I mean, maybe sometimes. I'm not saying it's never going to happen.
They're targeted by other men.
Right. But women are targeted by other men. I think women have less of a safe space.
I disagree. Men don't have a safe space. If you go to certain
But I'm talking
cities,
about
they get murdered by other men.
Okay, but I'm not talking about certain cities. I'm talking about everyday life.
Yeah, everyday.
That right there, you kind of reaching, my guy. You kind of reaching, because that's very true, but that's valid with any situation. You go to a certain place looking like anything or just being anything, right? Yeah, you might get targeted because of where you're at. That's a geographical thing, right? But at the same time, I feel like if you go through most areas as a man doing your thing, right, you'll be all right. Do the same thing as a woman, bro. Your experience is going to be very different. Very different. Like, and it may not be from a violent perspective. It may just be from a weird, like, I'm not even gonna get into like catcalling and all that stuff. Like, just in general, bro. In general, this is where it's okay to make a generalized statement. In general, men have it easier day to day. Way easier.
Have you been attacked as a woman?
I have been pressurized. I've been raped. I've been attacked. I can go on and on and on. I was homeless, living in the streets, raped all the time. It happens. It's a real thing. Yeah. I didn't see the guys on the street getting raped, but
men do get raped.
100%. But the experience of it.
Do you get catcalled down the street? Like,
I mean, women say things to me when I was a police officer.
Do you feel threatened? You feel empowered though, right?
No, I don't feel empowered. I feel this.
But do you feel scared? Do you feel threatened when a woman catcalls you?
No, I don't. I don't feel threatened if a man try to challenge.
Because you have that male privilege.
Right. As a woman,
what if a man was whistling at you when you were walking down the street?
I've had it happen to me. I had gay men whistle to me.
But how does that make you feel?
I don't care.
Okay, cool.
I mean, as long as you don't touch me, and we cool.
Right.
I know you may think I'm attractive. That's fine. It's cool. I
think women will say the same thing. As long as you're not like trying to be predatory. And I've seen it because I go to clubs with my friends who are girls, and I have to tell the men to literally leave them alone because they keep going and they're predatory and they're literally scouting out for women that are drunk or whatever, not even drunk. She could say no 1,000 times and they're still gonna bother her. But the minute that I say something, they stop.
Women are not as strong as men and they get targeted. Sure, yes, that is a privilege that men have over women, but that doesn't mean that men have privilege because of that one situation.
Dog, what? Clarkson. You're letting me down, man. You're the gay representative of this situation here, and you're really letting me down, bro. You're letting me down. Think about what...
I say something, they stop.
Women are not as strong as men and they get targeted. Sure, yes, that is a privilege that men have over women, but that doesn't mean that men have privilege because of that one situation.
Yeah. It does, though. You just said it. You literally... You just said that though. That's one situation, but there's several situations. All right, man.
Men commit suicide way more than women do.
Because if we're gonna go that route, trans men commit suicide twice the rate.
But that's not general.
I think what's important here is to distinguish the fact that yes, no one is negating the fact that women can get preyed on. You know, there's situations where this happens, right? Like, no one's going to deny that. Yeah. But we're also just trying to say that it's not like a one-sided coin here, where there's no, like, men are just, you know, we just have it good and we can do whatever we want. We can't even be the next Supreme Court justice because, you know, it's like.
But, you know, again, I live as a man, so I see the difference.
Yeah.
When I said I have privilege and I walk into a room, of course, but then there's other things that are expected of me now as a man that I would never knew were expected.
So I think one thing too, though, is there's a lot of people that view privilege or things like that, and then they automatically think of all of the negatives. It's like, bro, yeah, sure, you may have expectations or you may have whatever, but it's like you still have privilege though. Like, yeah, sure, there's negatives with everything, but guess what? You still have more privilege though. Like, a lot of people just have way more negative mindsets and pessimistic mindsets to where they can't even understand or appreciate their privilege because they're so focused on all of the negative stuff. You know?
Agree that there's such thing as female privilege?
Oh, sure, 100%.
My wife has privilege because she has me.
That's right.
So she don't have to worry about her safety because I'm there.
I don't believe that as a man, it's like, you know, there's marketing for women-owned brands. Like I said, I can't be the next Supreme Court justice. Like, women are very much more empowered today, which I think is, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, like, good for you.
That's the thing too, though. I feel like at this point, women deserve things like that. You know what I mean? If I search right now on Google black shirt, it's going to have a lot more clothes for women pop up before I can get a regular Hanes black t-shirt. You know what I mean? But little things like that just make sense, because guess what? Women have been held back for so long, and because male privilege exists to the point where it's like, yo, we might as well, you know what I mean? Let's section that off. You guys have that, right? You guys have this, little things, the next Supreme Court justice, right? We're looking for a woman, boom. Because it's like, guess what, bro? Male privilege, we've dominated in so many lanes for so long, to the point where it's like, I mean, come on, bro. We have to kind of help them get a leg up to where it's like, all right, now we can be equal, right? Because obviously, Men aren't just gonna give certain things up. They're just not, right? Traditional conservative men, they're not just gonna give things up, right? So it's like we need things like that. We need the advertisements on TV every now and then, you know, or every 2 minutes for the makeup brands. What's one of them? Fenty, right? Does Rihanna have commercials on TV? I don't even know, right? Little things like that, right? It's kind of necessary because it's like, not as privileged as we are. They, you know, I mean,
I think that the man I probably have privilege because I'm, you know, 6 foot 210. Like no one's picking on me when I walk down the street. You know, I used to live in Chicago and I used to walk home all the time at night, but like, was that smart? Probably not, but I felt a little safe because, you know, I'm not 5 foot 100 pounds. I'm Max, I'm 29,
Lucky
and I'm
man.
a conservative man. In today's society, women and men can be whatever they want and be as successful or as strong or as big of a leader as they choose. So I'm just wondering, in a society that is so seemingly level, more level than ever before, why are we transitioning to different genders to find, and what are we looking for?
Biology determines gender.
Oh, no. See, this is something right here, and I'm not going to speak on this too much while this is on because I don't want to drag this out, right? Biology determines sex, right? This is where DNA comes in. This is where chromosomes come in. This is where all of the biology aspects of life come in, right? Determine sex. Gender is an identity, right? This is something you identify with. If you're a cisgender man, you are of the male sex. The male sex, notice, right? And you identify as a man, male gender. That's the biology of it. That's your identity, right? But that's not always how it works, right? It's not always how it works. I think a lot of people just really can't wrap their brain around the fact that gender is truly a spectrum. And a lot of people don't fall on just one side or the other. You know what I mean? Gender fluid, I guess that'd probably be the middle, where it, you know, could be either side at the same time. I don't know, right? Not going to get too deep into it. But short answer, no. Long answer, I said it already. So yeah, I'm going to try not to pause through this entire question. I'm going to try not to. No promises.
So sex and gender, people try to argue that they're different, but sex and gender actually go hand to hand. And our biology, being a man, comes down to every fiber within our body. So whether that be DNA, chromosomes, testosterone levels, bone density, there's a whole bunch of different factors that go into it, and it all has to do with biology.
So biology, I 100% believe in biology. Today we talk about biology being a social construct. I disagree with that as a transgender person.
Biology is not a social construct. Whoever may think that, bro. It's literally science. It's backed by facts, bro. And that's the thing. With it being backed by facts, then you can't really determine the fact that, like, biology determines it. Like, no, that's just not true. It's not a true fact. It's not.
Born biologically female. I always acknowledge that. And today I live as a male. Now, that being said, sex and gender, they are trying to separate those things. Gender can be, I've chosen my gender. As you see, nobody would, I think, probably understand that I used to be a female. Now, many people do, like you just said, believe that sex and gender are one thing and you can never change those. I'm not trying to change anything. I'm trying to show the world that this is how I feel by presenting the outside. But I think denying biology is where we get into a lot of problems.
So if you want to be, you know, seen as a man, then like,
right on.
Who are you to? I don't care. I mean, you do you, whatever makes you happy. But I think like it becomes a slippery slope. It's like, how are we going to deny basic human facts? Like, there's two genders.
I think that causes problems, and it causes problems for me.
Yeah.
Because the minute I start denying your biology, now you feel attacked by me. Right. And I don't want you to feel attacked by me. I never want you to feel, I want to.
That's valid. And again, this goes back to what I was saying before. I feel like people see one thing and just automatically think negative. Like, it's not an attack on your biology, bro. If you are of the male sex and you identify as a man, good for you, bro. That's, you know what I mean? That's your thing. That works. Do you? But at the same time, then you can't take that and then turn around and say, well, this person was born as such, and so they are whatever. It's like, no, that's not really how that works. Because think about it this way, right? For a man, let's say you get old, right? You turn like 65 last week. You chilling, right? You got some gray hair, though. It's not all gray, but it's kind of gray, right? So you dye it a completely different color, just to kind of change it up, right? Let's say you had brown hair, it starts turning gray, you dye it black, right? Then, I mean, at that point, bro, someone sees you, they're gonna say you have black hair, right? But someone that knew you while your hair was brown and turning gray or whatever, if they say that, that's not necessarily valid, bro. Like, sure, that's in your DNA, but that's not what it is, though. Your hair is black. So I feel like it'd be weird to kind of say that your hair is brown, because guess what? It's not. It's just not.
To be a part
trying to pause,
if
bro.
that makes sense. You don't have to agree with my choice of how I live my life, but all I ask for is respect.
What do you have on your driver license?
That's the thing too, bro. And I know I said I'm trying to pause, and I literally paused right after, but you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with anything. You really don't. You're not obligated to agree with anything. But at least respect it, bro. At the very least. At the very least. Like, Max had the best take so far, where it's like, that's what makes you happy, you do you. That's how it should be with everything, bro. And I'm surprised yet very glad that no one has come at Clarkson for being gay, because they really could have if they wanted to. Because guess what? Conservative men have done that before. I guess we just have a very nice group today to where they haven't. But it could have happened, bro.
Right,
did you change it to male, or did you change it to?
So that being said, I transitioned to live as a man 29 years ago. So that was way before you see any of this stuff. And I had to acknowledge my biology, right? That being said, my license, I travel the world. It has to say male. Can you imagine if I showed up at the airport, they're like, female? Dude, there's something going on here. But I actually got my birth certificate changed to male. I was the first person to do that here in Los Angeles. But that being said, I kind of think that it might have been a mistake to do that now, looking forward today, because I never thought we would be having this conversation.
I'm glad you said that, because I love that people can express themselves. We live in America. It doesn't matter what I believe, what my religion is. I love that people can live their best life. I'll never, ever in my life protest or try to go against a person who wants to identify. The problem is when you begin to try to change language, and you begin to try to change reality, and then therefore it changes on the children, and all of that becomes problematic. If a person says, okay, I acknowledge I'm born as a man or a woman, but I want to identify as this, cool, I respect that. And even if I didn't want to see it that way, and some people may be a little more ambiguous, I wouldn't never disrespect you. I'll call you by your name.
That's right.
Whatever name that you want to be associated with, I'll do that. And I think if everybody in the country can get on that same page, I think we'll see less division.
I've noticed in a lot of the trans individuals that I've met, the older generation who had it a lot harder in society to be accepted is a lot more willing to have the conversation.
We didn't have social media. I didn't have cell phones. I didn't have computers when I transitioned. This is how you build bridges. I'm Buck. I'm 59 years old, and I'm a trans man. Because I'm an elder trans man now, and there's a much newer generation, there's a definite space where I have a different way of being than the younger generation, and why I tend to call myself a transsexual man. And I believe in biology, I believe in binary, so it really does not necessarily align with the new thought process that is happening with the newer generation.
Okay,
so I love this question. With trans folks, biology does change. Our bone density does change. Our muscle structure does change. Our testosterone levels do change. So biologically, we do change. Anatomically, now that's where surgeries come into play. So when we're talking about biology and gender that can't be changed, our biology absolutely and concretely changes.
Not the DNA.
But our
DNA does not change.
Yeah, right. DNA is not going to change for anyone.
So you acknowledge there's a biological difference between males and females, because some people on the other side would say there's no difference. Like a female, like I could look like a girl, not have any testosterone, but I'm still a male.
Some people are male, some people are female, chromosomally. But when we start to take testosterone, our bodies do biologically change.
But what about trans men who don't take testosterone?
Then their bodies don't biologically change.
That means then they're biologically still female, right?
Well, and gender in itself is something we get to choose. Okay,
that's right.
Just like you said.
Well, in your life, you get to choose. Not you don't get to choose it for the world, but you get to choose.
No, I get to choose my gender because I've been on testosterone for 10 years. Okay, going on 11 years.
But there's some anatomy that will never change.
That's right.
Right? I mean, you'll still have ovaries. You still have,
Yes.
you know, the female reproductive system. You said that you had a child.
Yes, I've given birth. I no longer have female reproductive organs.
Right, but you had that. You will never get male productive organs.
Now, when you think about it, the male and female productive organs are similar, and they're nearly the same. They're different. Right. They're different in size.
Even if,
biologically.
And they're different in functionality, too.
Not necessarily, because the testes and the ovaries are very much similar. One is an egg, one is a fertilizer.
But
and
we
that's
can
the
never,
difference.
but I never can produce sperm.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And they can never produce ova.
And you guys are saying that gender is like a social construct. Is that what you're saying too, that you could change it? But also, if you want to be technical about it, age is a social construct, your ethnicity and race is a social construct, and I'm Hispanic. I can't say I'm Chinese because I like Chinese food. I could bleach my skin all I want. I could wear Chinese clothes.
No, race is not. How is ethnicity going to be a construct?
There's all social constructs.
So how exactly?
If you look up, is race a social construct? Ethnicity a social construct? Is time a social construct? Right. Everything's a social construct if you want to think about it that way. But we have set truths and we can't change those truths. If you want to say you're trans man, that means you're a biological female that thinks that you're a male.
I am a biological male. I'm an anatomically.
He's gonna have different version of it than,
right.
And I think it's really important that we understand
and
we're all gonna have
it's
different
anatomic, okay?
Yeah.
Because biologically, I have shifted, okay? Trans meaning going from one to the next.
Biologically and all these things, I know that there's importance for you guys, but meeting me or seeing me, you would never know. So why is it important?
Well, no, because
I'm just
say
curious.
if I was a woman, just say if I was a woman and I wanted to date you, what are you going to tell me?
I would tell you that I'm trans.
No, I'm saying you can't tell me that you're a man.
I mean, I'm still a man.
No, but you got to tell me. You got to tell me that you were born a woman. You have to.
I mean, I don't have to.
Well, because if I go down,
I feel like that's one thing, bro. Comes down to personal choice, man. Personal choice, because no one's really obligated to tell anyone anything. You know what I mean? Like, let's say me, right? Look as dark as I am. Imagine one of my parents is white. I don't have to tell anyone I'm mixed. I could just say I'm black because I'm this dark. Right? Not obligated to. Could, because it'll make some things make more sense later on. I don't have to. I'm not obligated to do anything. Right? Same thing with trans men and trans women. You're not obligated to tell anyone, you know what I mean, what your baby pictures look like. Some people might want to know, right? In some situations, it's probably better off if you do, but at the same time, you're not obligated to. You don't have to tell anyone anything, bro. Like, you know what I mean? It's just down to who you are as a person. I feel like in Brandon's case, say it was swapped, right? Then he would absolutely tell everyone, because it's like, you know what I mean? That would probably, you know, lead to less conflict or whatever, or lead to less problems, or just make things make more sense from the beginning, whatever, you know what I mean? But like, you know, I feel like it's not that big a deal. You don't have to tell anyone anything. You really don't. That's up to what everyone personally wants to do.
If I see you in your pants,
You know? Right.
I'm going to see something different, and that will be troubling to me if I had an expectation.
But again, this is like leading off the topic, but I mean, to answer your question, if you must know, I do tell the person that I'm talking to or interested that I'm transgender. I don't think that you need it to, you know, you don't need a penis to be a man. I know that you may disagree, which is fine, like I get it, but I don't want one.
Now, I have a question for all of you. Do your penises make you men?
Well,
part of our,
like,
part of what makes me a man,
is that what makes you?
Well,
I feel like personally, I feel like this is a personal question. Does it personally make you? And I feel like me personally, yes. I don't know what I would do without mine. I really don't. I just don't. It's, you know what I mean? Convenient. Every now and then it's like, okay, these pants are a little bit too tight, but you know, other than that, it's like, yeah. But I feel like that's not everyone's view. There's probably some dudes my age that I probably know that, you know, that are cis men, straight men, whatever, mostly conservative, whatever. And it's like, it's not that big a deal. Like, I could lose it tomorrow and still be a man. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's another personal question. It really just depends on the person.
Brain within every part of your body. So our cells, our
Right,
Yes, our penis too,
but
but if someone goes to war-
if you had to look at the difference between us and between you, now would that difference be the lack of a penis?
If we were naked,
Okay.
I mean,
So if we're gonna minimize being a man to that particular anatomy,
we didn't minimize.
No. I'm asking the question. Okay. If we minimize it, because this is where we're going, is anatomy, right? Because that's where we've gotten.
Our basic biology.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we get there, so do your penises make you more men than us?
It's part of
it's
what
not
does.
making more or less. It's we're a biologically man. You're not a biological man.
It's not a spectrum, so it's not a question that we can answer, because you're saying on the spectrum, would this make us more of a man than you? But no, it's because we are a man and you guys aren't.
Well, we're different.
So we're not men.
We're
is exactly what you just said.
In my view, you guys are
Impressive, man.
appropriating the gender, and you are living as a man, but
You said
biologically you are
appropriating?
not a man. So to me, it's not. You can't say, okay, well, does that make us more of a man? That's not even a question to ask, because you're not a biological man. When it comes down to asking questions that make me start to change what the truth is and what the truth isn't, putting it on a spectrum when it's an objective truth, that's where I draw the line.
What's the biggest problem with what he said? It doesn't make you. It doesn't make what you feel any different. The biological truth is the truth, and why can't that be the truth? And you also say, but I feel like on the inside that I'm a man and I'm going to present that way.
The argument is that people try to invalidate who we are with that. I'm not saying that you guys are doing that, but a lot of society in the world does that. Well, biologically, you're female.
I see that all the time. I see that all the time, bro. And that's one thing too that I feel like is being portrayed, well nowadays in media, where people will portray that, you know what I mean, very, like, I was just watching Shameless the other day. Bro. This dude Ian met what's his name, bro? Trevor? That was a trans man. And when Ian first met bro, he was like, whoa, what? Like, very good, but I feel like that's just because of how certain people are brought up. You know what I mean? They're raised, and also their perspective on things. They may not have much experience with these things, and so that's why their views are so, one way or the other, because they just don't know. You know what I mean? But a lot of people just try to invalidate trans men especially, but also trans women too, where it's like, yo, like, you're not a dude. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Hurts trans people that people don't realize what they're doing is it's very harmful. You got to be aware of what you're saying and what you're putting out there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, 100%. I would, and that's why I think we all agree. We would never try to offend you or anything like that. To be honest, if I saw any one of you in the streets, I don't care. It's not going to bother me that you want to. Right. I would know unless I pulled your pants down or something. Right. Why do you feel like you have to present the way you do? Facial hair. Could you be a man without having facial hair?
I mean, yeah.
Because you feel like you're a man.
I'm in the early stages of testosterone. I haven't hit 1 year yet. But personally for me, I crave, having a full-on beard like these fine gentlemen and you guys all like, I crave it, but I do believe not having like this little small peach fuzz I have going on, it does make me feel more dysphoric. It makes me feel like, oh, this is how I presented before transitioning.
Do you feel like it's something that has gone wrong at birth? Like, you're born and you say, well, genetics and evolution says this. Why do I feel like this?
Yeah,
yet
I think questioning it was something that I always wondered, because sometimes when people say like, oh, like it was a choice, which I hear a lot on the other side all the time, like it was a choice. I was legit born this way. Like I could remember from, I think 4 or 5 years old, where like I didn't feel like a girl, you know what I mean? And I can't tell you why that happened. It was just my path in this life. And it's something that I honored. And, it was really hard for me to continue living, especially when puberty hit. Like time of month comes in, obviously anatomy changes, and that was the biggest thing for me, where I knew that like, okay, I can't do this. It's like you're not in your own home.
Children should be allowed to transition.
Well, I feel like this is one of those questions where it's very personal, but at the same time, it's like morally, we need the option. Same thing with my views on abortion, bro. Women should be able to have abortions. I'm not saying women should have abortions, you know what I mean? But if that's what you want to do, you should be able to. Same thing with children transition. I don't know what's going on in Texas, bro. I don't know what is going on in Texas. Florida too, terrible. But the option should be available. Like, it shouldn't be illegal. It shouldn't be one of those things. It's like, you know what I mean? It can be frowned upon, because guess what? That's your opinion. Do you? But at the same time, the option should be there. That's how I feel about it. The option should be there. Now, whether it's, you know what I mean, a 4-year-old that's like, you know what I mean, I don't know, that comes down to the person, that comes down to the parents, that comes down to how they feel, you know what I mean, whatever's going on. But overall, the option should be there. Should be there. The option should be there. It shouldn't be one of those things where it's completely outlawed and like, this isn't right, you have to be, you know, 18 years old, whatever. Like, I could see how some people would understand that would make sense, but the option should be.
I was gonna say, I find it very interesting that you and I are the only ones that stepped up, especially since we're younger. And
you should allow children to feel what they feel, because I felt the way that I felt for as long as I can remember, and it's something that I cannot deny.
Yeah.
You know, although my mother is supportive, when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to wear boys' clothes because that wasn't right. Now I know we're talking about transitioning. It doesn't always have to be hormones. It's like transitioning in society, so being able to dress more masculine. I did when I was younger, but as I got into
that's the thing too, like, a lot of people kind of view it as straight up hormone surgery, you know what I mean, completed. Like, that's not even the path that a lot of people even want to go. Sure, it may be a common, but it's not what everyone wants to do, you know. So it's like, I feel like if there's a trans man that's 11 years old, you know what I mean, let bro dress like a skater if he wants to. You know what I mean? Like, the option should be there. You know what I mean? Again, down to personal, the parents, the whatever, but the option should be there, in my head.
School, kids change, people are mean, so, you know, I dressed how I would in society, so I dressed like a girl, whatever, but I think that children should be allowed to express themselves in whatever way makes them feel comfortable.
That is very true.
Kids are struggling to be who they are, and there's more rates of suicide for trans individuals because there's literally being laws put in place to prevent them from being who they are, and that's not right. That's not right.
Here we go with some takes, man. Here we go with some takes.
Okay, so I work with children. This is where I have like the biggest problem with the trans stuff, is with the children, because people, like, I'm sure you guys would agree, you want to inject them with the hormones to stop their puberty, their normal puberty. They haven't even developed the prefrontal cortex yet, and you want to stop their natural puberty from occurring to affirm their gender, and then later on they regret it. I think that's not a good thing.
See, that's why this is a loaded question.
That's something that's happened before, yes. You know, I've heard a lot of older, especially, trans people talk about things like that. That happens. You know what I mean? But at the same time, if we're on the base of the question, children should be allowed to, yes, children should be allowed to, not saying they have to, not saying they should, not saying they need to, whatever, but they should be allowed to. If that's what they choose to do, they should be allowed to. The option should be there, I think, you know?
Because transition can mean many things for children. Now,
Exactly.
I totally, as a transsexual person, disagree with giving children hormone blockers, medication, surgery. But what I do agree with is socially transitioning, which means why? Because I did that. Okay, and I did that in the 60s and 70s. My parents dressed me like Buck. I was a boy. You know, I didn't have any problems because I just lived, we used to call it a tomboy, right? So that was totally, and I went through puberty and I did all the things. I do not believe children can make those choices, and I do not believe it's okay and ethical for a parent to make those choices for a child. But I do believe gender dysphoria exists in children. I had it, 100% it's there. But to give medication to a child is so unethical to me that you would actually, you're exactly what you said, you're stunting brain growth, you're stunting all of these things. They don't have enough research on it. So I'm in agreement with transitioning medically for children is not okay for me, but I do believe in a social space.
When you say a social transition, it's interesting to me because we can't control what happens in a social situation.
That's right. That's right.
So to me, and we talk about suicide rates among young trans people, this whole ideology is telling people to derive their value off of what somebody else is saying about them or what somebody else affirms to them. So we say that, you know, society is the problem and we're not allowing people to be who they are, and that's why they're committing suicide. But maybe it has to do with the messaging that we're sending to these kids, that you derive your value from if somebody uses your correct pronoun, or you derive your value if this person accepts you for wearing a dress. Be who you are. But
okay, hold on a second, because if we're using this logic here, man, if we're using this logic here and we go back earlier in the episode, this kind of ties into also being a man, bro. As a cis man, represent a man, I am a man, identify as a man, right? You know how many times coming up, especially when I was younger, I got called a little girl, bro? The video of Cootie calling Lil Bow Wow a little girl when he was like, what, 10 years old, bro? Felt that. I dealt with that a lot since I was a baby, even up until recently, bro. Like, this is a thing that happens this is an often thing for me. You know what I mean? It's whack. It's very whack. Do I feel dysphoric at all? No, because I know I'm a dude. In my heart, I know I'm a dude, right? But at the same time, it's like, yo, what do I need to grow a beard? Like what is it, bro? Because it's like, I don't get it, right? The same thing goes for trans individuals, right? If someone is presenting as female, right? They're presenting as a woman, and someone calls them a woman, but guess what? In their hearts, they feel like they're a man. That's gonna suck, bro. It's gonna feel terrible, right? So then, if you present a certain way, get addressed a certain way, that feels better. Yeah, sure, it's a personal thing, but it's like at the end of the day, society does what they see, right? They go with what they know. So it's like, if you look like a dude, you're a dude, right? That's how I feel, and that's only because of my personal experience with being misgendered and things like that. It's a terrible feeling, bro. Like, to be honest, because it's like in some cases, it's like you kind of start to look at yourself a certain way, right? That never really happened with me. Like, a few times I'll be like, yeah, you know what I mean? I can understand that. But at the end, I'm a dude. I feel like a dude. I am a dude. I live as a dude, whatever. But that's not the case for everyone, bro. That's not the case for everyone at all. So I feel like that's one thing where it's like, you know, it kind of is on society. Because, yeah, it's personal, but it's on society because it's like there's a certain standard and tradition of what, you know, a certain gender looks like. So it's like people are just going to go with what they know, and then boom. That's my point there.
But tell them to be empowered about it and not get that empowerment from somebody else.
That's right. I feel like that's really kind of inconsiderate to say that someone would take their life because what someone else says. To somebody, that is important. To somebody, I know, have friends who their family does not use the correct pronouns and they've transitioned and they live in the same household. This person struggles with depression and anxiety. Could you imagine living in an environment like that where you're no longer validated? That's coming from your own parents.
But if you base your validation off of other people, this is a hard truth. But if you're...
That's the thing, though. No one bases their validation or their existence off of anyone. It's kind of something that happens because of how humans work and how society is. You know what I mean? No one bases, like, I bet you, man. What's his name again? But Clarkson, I bet you don't base your entire existence on being gay. I can tell. Because there's some people that do. They don't look like you, man. They just don't. It's very different. So it's like, I feel like if someone, you know what I mean, like one of your homies knows you're gay and keeps trying to put you on with women, after a while, you're probably going to get annoyed with that. You're probably going to feel weird about that. You know what I mean? Because it's like, yo, this isn't what I do. This isn't how I feel. This is how I feel about certain people. This isn't who I am. You know what I mean? So you're going to feel a certain way. Are you basing your validation of being gay off of your friend trying to hook you up with his sister or his friends or whatever? No. That's what fell upon you in society. You know what I mean? I feel like, think about it this way. And again, I forgot there was a disclaimer at the beginning of this video, but this has to do with misinformation, things like that, right? I get it. But at the same time, I feel like people need to, especially in scenarios like this, need to kind of think about their own perspective first and then go with what they know and kind of make it make sense, right? You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to at all. But at the same time, you can't invalidate it. You can't disrespect it in a way. Because it's like, bro, why? Like, literally, why?
No, you definitely have to do it. Listen, I could give a shit when everyone thinks about me. I do what I want. But for everyone, that's not the case because everybody has different personalities.
Right,
Exactly.
but that doesn't make it any. That doesn't mean that.
But it's
we
still.
should
But
be
what you're not
telling people to get
acknowledging. What you're not
validation from
acknowledging though
others.
is that in that environment, it is not supported.
I'm acknowledging that. I'm
Okay.
just saying that we're saying that for some reason they should look for that validation from somebody
When
else
you
rather
love
than
somebody
find it
and you
within.
have a family, you want them to
But you're
validate.
focusing not on the individual, you're focusing on the people outside of that
Yeah, but the
individual. I'm
individual
focusing on empowering that individual.
But part of being a
You're-
person is needing to be validated. You don't need to be validated ever in your life from your
No.
family or your friends.
I get my
Never.
validation from within, and then the
Right,
There's
but
no-
if we're talking about children, okay, if we're talking,
child.
okay, I was an 8-year-old when I found out that I wasn't biologically male, right? I was 8 when I found out that I wasn't the same as my brothers. Okay, and so going through that process, I attempted suicide 4 times because my mother was like, "Well, you are a girl." When you're 8 and you're 12 and you don't have anyone else that is in your space, when you don't have anyone else that lives in the same house as you to tell you you're okay.
And that's the thing too. Like, we're discussing children here, bro. A lot of younger kids, their life is straight up school, maybe a sport, maybe a hobby, maybe an instrument or whatever, and home, bro. Their entire knowledge of the world is whatever they learn at home, whatever they do at home. You know what I mean? That's why you have certain people that grow up a certain way, and then as they get older, they have other experiences and then realize that something that they went through or experienced or did as a kid is not normal to other people because they had their own experience. You know what I mean? Rich kids finding out that not everybody has a driver, or you know what I mean? Things like that, right? That's just a different example. But at the same time, like kids, like he said, when you're 8, 12 years old, all you have is your family. You know what I mean? In some cases, some people don't even have that. Some people have, you know what I mean? Some people grow up in public housing. Some people grow up in group homes. They don't really have a real family. So they have no one. You know what I mean? Which in some cases probably could be better than some people with families that aren't supportive or just aren't good people, whatever. You know what I mean? But it's like, we're talking about kids here, man. Like kids. Not like, it's not even like they're, 16, 17, where they have their license, they have their friends, they go to high school. You know what I mean? They have their own experiences a little bit. They're starting to really live their own lives. We're talking about kids, bro. Like little kids. It's messed up, man.
Where are you supposed to go? How are you supposed to garner your own self-validation if the people that are raising you don't validate who you are?
As a father,
that's very valid. And another thing too that I feel like a lot of people don't realize, especially people in power that are making these laws and things like that, is they don't realize that they don't have the same perspective on life that kids do. Kids are very pure. Kids are, they kind of, especially the younger they are, the more pure they are. They kind of just live life how they want to, what they want to do. Because guess what? They're not corrupted by things like war, things like, in a lot of cases, you know what I mean, racism. Sure, there's a lot of cases where that's all they know because they grew up in a terrible environment, whatever. But, they don't know about all the stuff that we know. So it's not like things that matter to us aren't that big of a deal. They don't care, right? Because they don't know. Because they're kids. They don't need to care, right? They shouldn't care, to be honest. A lot of kids do, and it's very unfortunate. But so I feel like these people in power don't realize because they can't resonate with that perspective anymore because they're so corrupted by real life things and grown up things to the point where they don't understand that to a little trans kid, that's their biggest problem in life. They don't care about taxes. They don't care about the economy. They don't care about, you know what I mean, war in wherever. Right now, Russia and Ukraine. Like, that doesn't matter to them. Doesn't matter to them. Their biggest problems are not feeling like who they are, who they want to feel like, right? And the fact that Nickelodeon went off for the day to encourage people to go outside. Like, that's it, bro. That's it. And can I say something real quick? Completely off topic, but I just mentioned it. I used to hate that day, bro. What was that? Earth Day? It was something, right? And this is Michelle Obama's fault. And I love Michelle Obama, but this is one of her doings. I still have some beefs with her as a young child. Now that I'm older, it is what it is, right? But if we going back in time, beef. Man, I forgot what day of the year it would be. Nickelodeon would go off from like 11 a.m. to Worldwide Day of Play. That was the name of it. They would tell you about it for like a week. The Nickelodeon would go off for the day from like 11 a.m. to probably 7:30 p.m., bro. Whole day. It would just tell you whatever, worldwide day of play, go outside. You know what I mean? You know how lame that is? Because guess what? You go to Disney Channel, it's nothing on for real. You go to Cartoon Network, it's the same episode of Amazing World of Gumball that was on last night. Bro, you know how annoying that is? You know what I mean? But even still, that was my biggest beef with childhood. That was it. Because I was a dude. I knew I was a dude. I came out right. That's not the same case with everyone. Some people have worldwide day of play and, you know what I mean, gender dysphoria. Whatever. Like, come on, man. Think about it. Really think about it.
Duty is to raise my children the way I believe is right. And if my child somehow struggles with this, which is fine, we'll have that conversation. But I'm going to let it play out the way I believe it should be played out. And at 18 years old, you can do whatever you want to do. If you don't want to wear dresses, that's fine. I mean, just wearing it, if you want to dress like a boy, don't make you want to be a boy. Don't mean you have to be a boy. My mom was a tomboy, and my mom had me and my brother, and she's a woman, you know, and she lives like that. But, you know, you may want to dress a little different. Maybe a boy want to do cheerleading or something like that. Right. But that don't mean you need to transition to something else. So I want that to play out until my child is old enough to make that decision on their own. Also, you have to teach your children to have balance, because if you just want mommy and daddy to acquiesce to everything you want, that's not reality. You have to understand that mom and dad may not see me this way. They love me. Right. I see myself this way, and I disagree with how they speak to me or how but I love them as well.
I feel like the thing with that, though, is a lot of people aren't in that situation to where they even have parents that are supportive enough to even think like that or have that. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't have that privilege. That's a privilege right there, bro. A lot of people are kind of just, no, you're this, you're that, whatever. That's it. They don't even have a conversation about it. They don't. A lot really don't. And it's getting better, but at the same time, it's not completely gone. There's a lot of parents that still are that way, right? So I feel like to say that, it's like, that sounds cool and all, but is it realistic? Not really, bro. Not really. That might be your case as a parent, whatever. That's cool. But that's not everyone's case, especially as a child, man. And I'm not saying, like he said, like you should get everything, you know what I mean? Everything that you want, everything you ask for as a kid, because that's not realistic either. But, you know, I feel like if your child, especially as a parent, you gave birth to this life, you created this life. If your child comes to you and is like, yo, I would appreciate it if you used she, her pronouns with me instead of he, him, and refer to me as your daughter instead of your son, you should at the very least consider it. Not saying you have to agree with it, not saying you even have to do it, but you should at least consider it. There's a lot of people that don't even consider it. They're just like, no, they're too, they're afraid of change. They're too wrapped up in their own tradition, their own ways of thinking, their own miserable lives, whatever, in most cases. You know what I mean? That's it. But I don't know, man.
I love, like my son, if he said that he was, and I'm a Christian and I don't believe in homosexuality. I don't.
Exactly.
I respect anybody that feels that way. I never, protest you at all. If my son came to me, it would be a struggle for me to want to go to his wedding. I'm just going to be honest. But I think that my son should understand this is the way my dad feel. I love him. This is the way I feel, and we have mutual love. And that don't mean I hate you. That just mean we disagree.
There's a lot of people that don't have that privilege either of even being loved by their parent when they go to them about certain things. You know what I mean? A lot of people can't go to their parents about anything because they're so close-minded about everything to the point where they don't even, you know what I mean? Like little things like that, like that's very good. You know what I mean? W man's W dad, right? That's not the case, especially with a lot of trans individuals, bro. Their parents, at least nowadays, right now, a lot of their parents aren't hearing it, bro. They're just not. They're closed-minded. They're very, you know what I mean, traditional. They go with their own thing, and that's it. Because that's how they were raised and whatever. But, you know.
And I wish that same sentiment would be, and I think it's the same on this panel. Like, there's no hate in any of this. Right. I love every single person on this side, and we may think of things differently, but we love each other. It can't be one-sided.
I am Lucky, I'm 41, and I'm a trans man. One of my greatest fears as a trans man is my life being taken from me because I'm a trans man. Transitioning in a black neighborhood with gang members as neighbors, they weren't having that. So the more that my body started to look a lot like theirs, I was challenged on a regular basis. I was beaten up because someone recognized me from prior to my transition. and approached me and confronted me and called me a liar and told me I was a bitch. And I, out of safety, was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they cold cocked me, and I lost a front tooth.
I grew up with a positive father figure.
Saw that coming.
This is good.
Yeah. I think for me it's surprising, because I would believe that a woman who, or a person who's born as a woman who now identifies as a man, didn't have a positive role model as a man, and therefore they felt somewhat insecure as a woman, which makes them, feel a certain way and want to be a certain different person. Maybe they want to be the man that their father never was, or whatever the case may be. And so it was very interesting. I mean, being honest, it was interesting to see pretty much a majority of you guys come forward.
That's so great. I think that's really important that you say that, because I do think a lot of people probably feel that way about guys like me, right? That our fathers we didn't have the right upbringing or what. My father was amazing. I grew up really like a little boy. I always felt like a little boy. My parents actually raised me, and I'm 59 years old, so that was in the 60s and the 70s when we didn't even talk about this kind of stuff. But my parents actually felt it from me. So I think that that's a misconception that people think about people like us.
Any good father pushes their child to, one, feel self-love, and to feel like they can be who they want, do what they want, and have life of liberty in the pursuit of happiness, right? Like our founding fathers. And so it's fatherlessness, or having a missing dad, is one, a pandemic in its own, and it's one that obviously I'm sure Brandon can attest to. It's so critical to have a father in the house, because kids get lost when they don't have one, and having a father that's loving.
I feel like that right there is another misconception that's kind of led from the past. I personally don't agree with that statement. I feel like there's certain things that a male figure may give to a child or may help a child with, but at the same time, it's not like kids are lost without that, because guess what? If you don't have something, then you don't have anything to miss. You know what I mean? It's like, if you never had a Ferrari, you can't look back on the days when you did, or feel empty without your Ferrari, because you never had one, bro. You know what I mean? So that's the case with a lot of people. And then there's a lot of people too that I feel like just aren't fit to be parents. They may be in their child's life, but they're just not fit to be. They're not good parents. And I'm not saying that they do bad things, but they're just not built for that. There's a lot of people that just are terrible parents. They may try, but that's not what they do. That's not what they were supposed to do with their life, but they kind of went with the traditional thing, get married, have kids, whatever. They suck as parents. They don't, you know what I mean? So I don't agree with that statement at all. I feel like in some cases with certain people in certain situations, probably necessary, but in general, especially in today's climate, I feel like we're at a point now where a lot of people we don't need the 2 parents, 4 kids, 2 dogs, picket fence household. You know what I mean? America, look, like that's not every upstanding citizen comes from that lifestyle. Not every, you know what I mean, powerful person comes from that. There's a lot of people that are doing very well for themselves that came from the trenches. 1 parent, 6 kids, whatever. You know what I mean? They're all doing good. That happens all the time. Same thing with people that had both parents in the house. They come out trash. It just depends. It's a personal thing. So
wrong, and
I don't agree with that statement.
Someone you can rely on is the reason why we're all comfortable with who we are.
I had several different father figures in my life, so it wasn't, I had a dad, but then I had my grandfather and I had my uncle. It takes a village to raise a child, right? But all of those different perspectives raised me as a well-rounded human. If we take the masculinity out of it.
That's the thing too. I feel like anybody could raise someone to be a good person. It's not even about certain things. It's just like being a good person. Because guess what? There's a lot of people that don't have either of their parents, and they still end up really good people because of whoever raised them, whether it's their grandparents or in some cases a neighbor, whatever. So in a lot of cases, teachers, especially way back in the day, teachers, things like that. So I feel like that's one thing. Same thing with the opposite. I feel like, there's some people that really can grow up without a mother. Should they? I don't know. But it's a personal thing. Do they need, I don't know. I feel like it's possible to turn out good, and like I said, be an upstanding citizen and all that with one parent, the other parent, neither, both. You know what I mean? It just depends. But same thing with the opposite. You could come out bad with one, the other, neither, both. You know.
Just as a human, I got to see different perspectives. And so now as a father that has given birth to a child, and that child being a male, right, I'm able to raise him with those same ideals that I'm able to identify because of the father figures that I had.
I didn't have my father growing up. He was not present in my life at all. So it showed me that some men can step up, like my grandfather and my stepfather, who have taken me in and showed me how to take care of myself, how to be, you know, strong and dependable. And all I've been able to do is give more love to all people that I interact with.
Right.
So it was really important for me to have those figures.
I think this is a really important thing to show people that are watching this, because a lot of times I feel like we can blame any issues in society or anything that arises on the generation that came before us. So any issues that arise in our society, it's like, there's not always a reason why it's happening. We just need to address the issue and solve it.
I grew up with all women. My parents were divorced, and I lived with my mom. I had my aunts, so I was raised by women, but my dad was there sometimes, and then my stepdad took me in as his own, so I had my stepdad as a father figure.
I grew up with all women as well. My mom used to tell me I have to be your mom and your dad. So like there'd be times where I got both. Like she was super sweet with me or really strict on me, and like she taught me a lot as well. Like growing up with women, it taught me a lot of vulnerability.
No, when you were talking to, I was like, I relate to you very well. But
I feel like that's one thing too, though. A lot of people kind of still came up with both, even though it's just one. You know what I mean? And that goes back to, you know, women not being privileged enough, because there's a lot of women that do a lot, bro. A lot, and still don't even get acknowledged for it. You know what I mean? So one thing I gotta say, Jacob, I noticed them shoes from the beginning. Those are hard.
I'm 27 years old, and I'm a trans man. So the relation with my dad and how unsupportive he is has been a challenge for me, but it's something that I've learned to grow past. And I encourage everyone that even if you don't have a parent who is supportive, to still be authentically yourself, because your life is meant to be lived for you. And I think that choosing my happiness above all else has made my life that much better, and I wouldn't change anything. Even though he wasn't supportive, I still wouldn't have him here.
A lot of people, unfortunately, live their life for their parents, because their parents didn't live theirs because they did whatever they did, whether in some cases they had a kid, whatever, you know what I mean? And so it kind of goes to them living their entire life for their parents, but then they get older and their parents die, and they realize they didn't do anything for themselves. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's something that a lot of people need to understand in general. Like, you kind of, like, you're your own person. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to live life as such, instead of living as an extension of. A lot of people, especially a lot of parents too, treat their kids as an extension of themselves instead of their own person, which is very weird.
Listening to all your guys' points, I would definitely say, yeah, I did have a father figure. He was in the Marines, and he has this very, like, toxic masculinity mindset. A lot of anger built up that I can definitely tell he suppressed, you know, in the Marines, because that's what he was taught to do. That's what the Marines are about. He always carried that with him, and I think that's what he tried to instill in me and my siblings at a very young age, which made it hard for me to be vulnerable with myself. And I just saw a lot of anger issues that were, you know, very violent sometimes. And since coming out as trans, I feel like he's been more willing to understand me more and trying to figure out who I am as a person. And because of that, I feel like our relationship has definitely got a lot stronger since then.
I can't imagine how difficult it is to come home and then try to be vulnerable after suppressing so much pain and hurt for years. So it's good to hear that, you know, he's learning and kind of evolving and opening up. That's something where, you know, you guys were talking about vulnerability, right? And it's like, there's times when it's good to be hard.
I don't show emotion as much as I'd like.
I agree with that. I feel like I could more. Will I?
I definitely have sensed and noticed since transitioning that being on testosterone has made me cry less, which is very interesting, because I believe that before I transitioned and started taking testosterone, I feel like not being able to cry as much, it makes me feel like, I'm like, damn, I wish I could cry right now, but it's not gonna happen. Hi, I'm Gibby, and I'm a trans man. Before transitioning, I guess only presented as lesbian, but since transitioning, I've been able to be more comfortable with my sexuality. I've definitely seen on like dating apps and stuff, a lot of conservative men fetishizing trans individuals, and it's interesting because a lot of the time they say that they don't identify as gay or, you know, within the community, and yet they're fetishizing my community.
That is I see a lot. Is very weird. But you know, it'd be like that, I guess. Yes.
So I don't know about you guys, but I always speak my mind. If I feel a certain way, I'll tell somebody, and that probably cost me a lot of relationships, but yeah, that's just how I am. So
I don't think there's anything wrong with, I know we talked about vulnerability, you know, a long time ago. I don't think there's anything wrong with being vulnerable. I think, like we said, there's times and places for it. Knowing when it's okay to be vulnerable and being self-aware of that, and then, you know, being strong when you need to, and being sad, you know, when it's appropriate. But I certainly am not as vulnerable or not as emotional as probably I should, because it's not something that I always did growing up. But I don't feel like I have any real issues like suppressing. I just feel like I kind of get it out in other ways.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's great you look at it like that, because I believe for
and that's
me,
a good
like,
thing too, though. I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people just don't do at all. They just suppress all their emotions, whether it be sad, anger, whatever. You know what I mean? And then it kind of just all comes out at once. And that's where it's bad. But I feel like if you're channeling that energy into something else, then, like, you know what I mean? I think the thing is that people, especially men, shouldn't be brick walls. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to just be this one thing and only let people see this one way and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, because that's kind of, in a way, like, that's robotic. That's not natural. That's not realistic. That's kind of weird, bro. But, you know, I feel like as long as you're getting feelings out in a certain way, then, and it works, and it's, you know, not harmful to yourself or other people, then, like, go for it, man. Do you? Personal
experiences, like, because I was one, you know, to transition at a very young age, and my dad being in the military, being a veteran, he would see me being vulnerable at times, and he'd be like, well, don't you want to be a man? And that would make me feel like, oh, am I not supposed to be vulnerable anymore? Now that I'm, like, you know, I'm gonna transition. And it was just, like, very hard for me because, like I said earlier, it was hard for me to have that father figure at that time of my life.
You know, my process of, you know, digesting emotions is by myself, and I use that time to self-reflect. So if I'm feeling angry, or if I'm, you know, feeling really passionate about something, or whatever the emotion is, sometimes I pull back and I don't show that emotion because I'm reflecting on it and trying to understand why it's there. So I think a lot of times people can think men aren't showing enough emotion, but in reality they're just self-assessing why that emotion is there in order to see what it's trying to teach us.
Right. I think for my, when I was female, I was much more angry. I was just reactive, angry, like, grr. And then as I became a man, I cry more now as a man than I ever did as a woman. And I'm like, I think it's because I'm at peace with myself. And so before I was just so angry about being a woman and everyone calling me she, and seeing a girl, and I just be, you know, I was a fashion model. So that really just took it to a whole other level. And then once I became a man, it was like, whoa, I can actually relax. And I think I do the same thing. I self-reflect on myself. I want to be this type of man that is more vulnerable and that is more accessing my own emotions.
Thank you, everyone.
Right on. Thank you.
Man,
That's cool.
how long? An hour and a, didn't I say this would take an hour and a half? Man.
Can I take a picture with you?
I'll clap it up for that, man. Oh my god. I'm just gonna end the recording there. I have nothing else to say.